The screams in the trees. The forest was not quiet. It was dark, cold. The trees were tall, twisted, and glowing with strange blue lights. Fog moved between them like living breath. It was not a place anyone visited, not by choice. But tonight, something moved through it. She ran. Fast. Her feet hit the soft ground, and her long silver hair flew behind her. Her name was Sira. She was young, only 19 cycles old. Her breath came out in sharp gasps. She didn't look back. She knew what was behind her. The Sylph. No one knew what they really were. Some said they were monsters. Others said they were spirits. Sira only knew one thing. They killed. Her village had been quiet one moment. And then, without warning, the forest had come alive. Screams, fire, blood. Her people were taken. Some were dragged away. Some were eaten. She had barely escaped. A sharp branch tore her shoulder as she ran. She didn't feel the pain. Fear was stronger. Her legs were shaking, but she pushed forward. She had to survive. And then she screamed. A scream so loud, it echoed through the entire forest. It was full of fear, pain, and something more. Hope. She didn't know if anyone would hear, but she screamed anyway. Miles away, a man opened his eyes. Jace Cross sat by a dying fire, holding a knife and sharpening a steel rod. His ship had crashed on this strange planet 3 days ago. He had been trying to fix his comms, hoping to contact someone. Anyone. But the planet was dead silent. Until now. That scream, it cut through the air like a knife. High-pitched. Desperate. Real. He stood slowly. His human ears were good, but the scream had come from far. Still, he had no doubt. Someone needed help. Jace looked at the trees. "Damn it," he muttered. "Why is it always the forest?" He packed fast. Weapon, flashlight, small medkit. He didn't need armor. He was fast, trained, and used to danger. Back on Earth, he was part of the Earth Defense Force. Special unit. Known for walking into fire and walking out alive. He stepped into the forest. The air changed. Thicker. Heavy. Like walking into a dream or a nightmare. Strange sounds filled the space between the trees. Hissing. Clicking. Whispers. The trees seemed to lean in closer the deeper he went. He followed his instinct. His gut always knew where danger lived. And right now, it was screaming louder than the girl. Sira had fallen. Her leg was hurt now. She dragged herself into a hollow tree. Her heart was beating so loud, she thought it would explode. She pressed her hand over her mouth to stay quiet. She could hear them. The Sylph. They didn't walk. They crawled. On all fours. Long limbs. Glowing eyes. Their skin looked like wet stone. Their teeth were sharp. And they were close. Too close. One of them sniffed the air. Another made a strange growl. She didn't breathe. And then, footsteps. Not crawling. Walking. Heavy. Human. The Sylph turned their heads. They smelled something different. Jace stepped out of the mist. He held a small energy pistol. Nothing fancy. But it was enough. He fired once. Direct hit. One Sylph dropped, howling. The others scattered into the trees. Jace moved quickly, eyes scanning. He had seen the girl from a distance. Silver hair, purple skin, bleeding. He knelt beside the hollow tree. "Hey," he said softly. "It's okay now. I got you." Sarah looked up, eyes wide. Who are you?" Jace gave a small smile. A very lost human. She tried to move but winced. They'll come back." "I know," Jace said, "but not tonight." He gently picked her up. She was light, her body shaking from fear and pain. Sira whispered, "Why did you come?" Jace looked around the dark forest. "Because I heard your scream." They disappeared into the trees. One human, one alien girl. Behind them, deep in the woods, the sylph watched from the shadows. Their eyes glowed. Their hunger grew. And somewhere, far beyond that forest, something much worse had started to wake up. Something older. Because one human had entered a forest that no one dared to walk. And the forest would remember. The forest that breathes. Jace didn't know how long he had been walking. The trees looked the same in every direction. Tall, black, and glowing with soft blue veins. The air felt thicker with every step, like something unseen was watching. The forest wasn't just a place. It was alive. And it was breathing. He could feel it, the soft push and pull in the air around him, like lungs filling and emptying, like the ground itself had a heartbeat. Jace had been on over 50 planets in his life, some beautiful, some deadly, but nothing like this. His boots crunched softly over wet moss. Strange lights floated above the ground, small orbs that pulsed with a faint glow and then vanished when touched. Somewhere far off, a deep rumble echoed, like thunder, only slower. It wasn't just noise. It was warning. Syrah lay against his chest, barely conscious. She had passed out an hour ago, her head resting against his shoulder. Her skin was burning with fever, and her wound was deep. Too deep for field dressing alone. Jace knew she needed help. Real help. But there were no cities. No roads. No safe place. Only this forest. And this forest hated intruders. A vine slithered across the path in front of him. Not blowing in the wind. Moving. Slowly. With purpose. Like it was tasting the ground. He stepped over it, careful not to disturb it. "I need a place to stop," Jace muttered under his breath. "Come on, give me something." He didn't expect the forest to answer, but it did. Just ahead, the trees opened into a small clearing. A waterfall dropped from a ledge of silver stone, spilling into a glowing pool. The water shimmered like starlight. Flowers bloomed around it, tall, red, and soft as feathers. And in the middle of it all stood a stone structure, old, broken, half swallowed by vines. A shrine. It looked human, partly, but mixed with alien shapes and ancient symbols. Jace had seen ruins like this once before on another world. His military team had called them ghost stations. No one knew who built them, but they always showed up on planets with strange energy. He stepped inside. The air was still, silent, heavy. He laid Syrah down gently on a bed of moss and checked her wound again. Blood. Infection. He frowned. "You're tougher than you look, kid. But you need time." He pulled a small tube from his belt, emergency med gel. It wasn't made for aliens, but it would have to do. He applied it gently, watching as the wound stopped bleeding and began to close. Syrah stirred. Her eyes fluttered open. "Where are we?" "Some kind of old temple," Jace said. "We'll rest here for a bit. You'll be okay." Syrah looked around. "This place, it's sacred. My people call it Kareth Elen. The heart tree used to live here, long ago." Jace raised an eyebrow. "Heart tree." She nodded weakly. Before the sylph came, the forest was balanced. The heart tree kept everything in harmony. But when the tree died, the sylph woke up, and the forest changed. Jace looked outside. "It's more than changed. It's hunting us." Syrah gripped his hand. "They're not animals, Jace. They remember. They plan. They wait." He stared into her eyes. "Then we fight smart." That night, as Syrah slept, Jace stayed awake. He sat near the temple's broken doorway, watching the trees. The forest was darker now. The glowing veins pulsed slower. The floating lights were gone. Only silence remained, until he heard it. Breathing. Not his. Not Syrah's. Something outside. Something big. Jace rose slowly, weapon in hand. He stepped into the clearing, eyes scanning. Nothing moved, but he felt it. Behind the waterfall, a shape. Tall. Thin. Watching. Then gone. He didn't chase. He just backed into the temple, sealing the doorway with a fallen stone. In the morning, Sira was stronger. She sat up, eating dry food from Jace's bag. She still looked pale, but her voice had strength now. "I don't understand you," she said. "What do you mean?" "Most humans run from danger. You walk into it. You saved me without knowing who I was." Jace shrugged. "You screamed," I answered. "But why?" He looked at her for a long moment, then said, "Because I've seen too many people die while others watched. I can't be that person." Sira lowered her eyes. "You remind me of the old stories, about warriors who came from the stars to protect the weak." "I'm just a soldier," he said. "A tired one." Sira smiled softly. "Maybe. But the forest heard your steps. And it woke up." Jace glanced outside. The vines had moved again. The glowing pool was gone. And the trees, they were closer. Something was coming. And Jace knew one thing for sure. The forest was breathing. And soon, it would be hunting. Her name was Sira. The light of the new day came slowly through the thick leaves of the alien forest. But it wasn't warm or golden like sunlight on Earth. It was pale and blue, like the glow from deep ocean water. Everything looked strange in this light. Even peaceful things felt a little wrong. Jace Cross sat just inside the broken stone temple, sharpening a small blade. His eyes stayed on the forest, never blinking for long. His body was still, but his mind was always moving. Every sound, every shadow, he was listening, watching. Sira was sleeping again, curled up in the moss. Her breathing was steady now. Her face was no longer twisted in pain. The med gel was working. She would live. That fact gave Jace some comfort, but not much, because the forest was changing. Again. The vines outside had started to twist into strange patterns, circles, lines, even symbols. Jace had seen those shapes before. In battlefields. In ruins. They were warning signs. The forest was not finished. It was just waiting. Sira woke with a soft sigh. Her silver hair shimmered in the morning light, though dirt and dried blood still clung to her skin. She sat up slowly, blinking. Jace turned toward her. "How's the leg?" She touched it carefully. "Better. Still hurts, but I can move." "That's something." They were quiet for a moment. Then Sira looked at him and asked, "What's your name?" "Jace." "Jace." She repeated it softly, like tasting the sound. "That's a strong name." He raised an eyebrow. "And yours?" She looked down. "Sira." There was something sad in the way she said it. Jace didn't push. "Nice to meet you, Sira." They sat together in the silence of the temple. It almost felt safe. Almost. Sira finally spoke again. "You don't know this world, do you?" "No. Crashed here 3 days ago." Sira looked surprised. "Alone?" "Yeah. Was on a recon mission. Ship got hit. Woke up in a crater. No signal. No help." Sira looked away. "You're not the first human to come here, but you may be the last." "What do you mean?" She paused, then pointed to a strange carved symbol on the temple wall, a spiral with lines running through it. "That's the mark of the first fire," she said. "The last time the Sylph rose, the sky burned. A great warrior came from the stars. Not human, not like you, but strong. He fought the Sylph for 7 nights. On the 8th night, he died." Jace stared at the symbol, and the Sylph. They went back into the trees, waiting. They always wait. Jace nodded slowly. "Until now." Sira stood, limping slightly. "They killed my people, my family, my friends. I ran. I was weak." "No," Jace said firmly. "You survived. That's not weakness. That's strength." She looked at him, eyes shining with something between sadness and hope. "Why did you help me, Jace?" He shrugged. "You screamed. I heard you. "But why you?" she whispered. "Why not someone else?" Jace's eyes grew dark. "Because once, someone screamed for me, and no one came." Sarah didn't ask more. She didn't need to. Later that day they walked. Sarah insisted. She didn't want to hide anymore. She wanted to go back, to see if anyone from her village was still alive. Jace didn't argue. He understood. But the path back wasn't simple. The forest had changed, again. The trees had shifted. The trail was gone. Every step they took felt like walking through a puzzle that was constantly moving. Sometimes they saw strange animals, glowing deer with too many eyes, birds that made no sound but moved like whispers. And sometimes they saw nothing at all. Just silence, like the forest was holding its breath. After hours of walking, they came to the edge of a high ridge. Below it, Sarah's village, or what was left of it. Smoke still rose from broken huts. The watchtowers were burned. Bodies lay in the open. Not many. Most had been taken. Sarah gasped. Her hands flew to her mouth. "No." Jace scanned the area. "Look. Over there." Movement. Behind a half-fallen wall, someone crawled. A child. Sarah ran. Jace followed. They found 3 survivors, 2 elders, and a boy no older than 10. They were hurt, hungry, scared, but alive. When they saw Jace, they stepped back, afraid. Sarah held up a hand. "No, he helped me. He's a warrior." The old woman looked Jace up and down. Her eyes were cloudy but wise. She reached out and touched his face. "You are not of this world." "No," Jace said, "but I'm here now." She nodded slowly. "Then you were sent by the forest." Jace almost laughed. "The forest wants me dead." "No," the elder said. "It wants balance, and when balance breaks, it calls for warriors." Jace frowned. "You think I was called here?" Sarah whispered. "You heard the scream. No one else did. Maybe that was the forest's voice too." Night fell fast. Too fast. The survivors huddled near a small fire. Jace stayed at the edge of the camp, eyes on the dark trees. He could hear them now. Not the sylph. Something worse. The forest was breathing again. But this time, it was angry. And Jace knew. They didn't have much time left. The pact of blood. The fire burned low. Sparks drifted into the sky like glowing insects, disappearing into the dark blue mist that hung over the ruined village. Jace Cross stood beside the flame, arms crossed, eyes watching the forest. He wasn't afraid. But he wasn't calm either. Something had changed in the air. It wasn't just the fear of another sylph attack. It was heavier than that. Like a storm waiting to explode. Behind him, Sarah sat with the 3 survivors, 2 elders, and the young boy. They were quiet, tired, but their eyes never left the trees. They were waiting too. Later, the elder woman, Malin, called Jace over. Her voice was cracked like dry leaves, but her words were sharp. "You are not from here," she said, "but the forest knows your name." Jace raised an eyebrow. "That's funny. I don't remember telling it." She didn't laugh. "This place remembers warriors. And it remembers war. Long ago, before I was born, there was peace. Not because the sylph were gone, but because a pact was made." Jace sat down on the ground, curious. "A pact." She nodded slowly. "Blood for balance. That is the old law. When the heart tree died, the sylph awoke. They became hungry, angry. So the tribes came together and made an agreement. Every full moon, one of us was given to the forest." Jace's face turned dark. "You're telling me they sacrificed people?" Malin's eyes didn't blink. "We did what we had to. The forest demands a balance. If we refused, it took more." "And now?" he asked. "The last offering was denied. A new chief said the pact was wrong. He called it evil. So he ended it. Jace leaned forward. Let me guess. That's when the Sylph attacked. Yes. Jace looked around at the burned village, at the scared boy sitting by the fire, at Syrah's wounded leg. You made a deal with monsters. No, Malin said quietly. We made a deal with the forest. The Sylph are only its teeth. Jace felt a chill crawl down his back. Syrah joined them, her eyes filled with fire. We can't go back to that, she said. We can't keep giving lives. That's not peace. That's fear. Malin shook her head. It's survival. No. Syrah stood up. My brother was taken last year. I watched my mother walk into the trees to die, so we could have one more season of peace. And still, they came. There's no balance left. She looked at Jace. There has to be another way. Jace nodded slowly. Maybe there is. He stood. We stop running. We stop sacrificing. We fight. Malin frowned. You think your weapons can stop the forest? I don't know, Jace said honestly. But I know one thing. Every time humans are told to bow, we stand. That's what we do. Syrah smiled faintly. For the first time, it wasn't sad. It was hopeful. The next morning, Jace began preparing. He took stock of what little he had. An energy pistol with 5 charges, 2 combat knives, a cracked visor scanner, and 1 field beacon that still blinked red with no signal. He asked the villagers for tools. Anything sharp, strong, or useful. They brought farming tools, rope, stones, even old wooden traps. Syrah helped organize. She was still limping, but her mind was sharp. She remembered how the Sylph moved, fast, quiet, low to the ground. She drew pictures in the dirt of the paths they used, the signs they left, the calls they made. Jace was impressed. You'd make a good soldier, she shrugged. I don't want to fight. I want to protect. He smiled. That's what the best soldiers do. By nightfall, the village looked different. Sharp sticks lined the edges. Nets hung in the trees. Fires burned at every corner. The traps weren't perfect, but they would slow the Sylph down. And then something strange happened. The forest pulled back. The fog that had choked the trees for days began to lift. The vines loosened. The sounds of insects returned. It felt like the forest was watching, waiting. Jace stood at the edge of the clearing, staring into the dark. His hand rested on his weapon, but he didn't draw it yet. Behind him, Malin appeared once more. You do not understand what you've done, she said softly. Probably not. You broke the pact. You spit in the face of old law. Good, Jace replied. The law was wrong. Malin looked toward the trees. Then be ready. Because now, the forest will answer, and it will not use words. At midnight, the silence broke. A loud screech shattered the sky. The ground trembled. Syrah grabbed the boy and ran for cover. Jace moved fast, climbing one of the wooden towers with his weapon ready. Then he saw them. Eyes. Hundreds of them. Glowing between the trees. Then shapes, long arms, black claws, silver fangs. The Sylph were coming. But this time, they weren't hunting cowards. They were charging toward fighters. Jace shouted down, "Positions, stay low, stay ready." Syrah looked up at him from below. This is it. He nodded. This is where we make the forest bleed. The first wave of Sylph rushed into the village, fast like shadows, sharp like knives. The traps snapped. The nets flew. Fires roared. Screams filled the air, but not just from the villagers. The Sylph were screaming too. For the first time in years, they were the ones afraid. And above them all, standing tall in the firelight, was a human warrior. Jace Cross, the man who had answered the scream. And now, he was here to end the silence. The hunt begins. The village burned, but this time, not in fear. The flames lit the night sky with orange firelight. Smoke curled above the wooden towers like hands reaching for the stars. The ground shook under the weight of monsters. But no one ran. This time, they fought. Jace Cross moved through the shadows like a ghost. Fast, precise, deadly. His energy pistol fired clean bursts. 1, 2, 3. Each shot hitting a sylph between its glowing eyes. But there were too many. For every one that fell, 2 more came. Still, he didn't stop. He couldn't. Syrah held a spear in her hand. She stood near the village well, protecting the boy and the elders. Her hands were shaking, but her eyes were strong. She had never fought before. Now she was fighting for her people, for her brother, for her past, for her future. One sylph charged at her, long claws, open jaw. She ducked, spun, and drove the spear forward. It screamed. She screamed back. Up in the tower, Jace ran out of shots. He tossed the pistol aside and pulled out his blade. The handle was worn, the blade scratched, but it was sharp. He jumped from the tower, rolled across the ground, and sliced through the leg of a sylph that had cornered an elder. Blood spilled, dark and thick like oil. "Get back inside," he yelled. The elder ran. Jace turned just in time to see 5 more coming. His heart raced. His mind was calm. This was war. But then, everything stopped. A loud howl rose through the forest, not from the village. From deeper inside. Something larger. Something worse. The sylph froze. Jace's eyes narrowed. What the hell was that? Syrah ran to his side, breathing hard. That wasn't a normal sylph. Jace looked at her. Then what was it? She didn't answer. Because she didn't know. The sylph began to retreat. One by one, they pulled back into the shadows, their bodies shaking. Not from pain, but from fear. Even monsters know when something bigger is coming. Syrah turned to Jace. "Why are they leaving?" "I don't think they are," he said slowly. "I think they're making room." "For what?" Jace didn't answer, because he didn't know either. That night, the village was quiet. Too quiet. Bodies of sylph lay scattered. The traps had worked. The fire had helped. But victory didn't feel like victory. It felt like a warning. The survivors gathered. Only 10 remained now, counting Jace and Syrah. The rest were either gone or taken. The boy, Rel, stayed close to Syrah, holding her arm like a lifeline. Malin, the elder, sat near the flames. Her face was pale. "It's not over," she said softly. Jace nodded. "I know." "You heard the howl." "Yeah." Malin looked into the flames. That was the Alpha. Jace frowned. "The leader." "The first," Malin whispered. "The one who made the pact with our ancestors. The one who remembers everything." Syrah's voice was sharp. "I thought it was dead." "No," Malin said. "It was sleeping, waiting for the pact to be broken. And now, it's awake." Jace stood and walked away from the fire. He needed air, needed space. He walked to the edge of the village and looked into the forest. The trees were quiet, still, but he knew they were not empty. He pulled a small object from his belt, an old Earth Tech data cube. It held blueprints, records, maps. He activated it. A blue light hovered above it, scanning the area. And then it blinked. It had found something. Not far from the village, underground. Jace leaned closer. A bunker. Human-made. He stared at it. "That's impossible." He ran back to the camp. "Syrah, I need you. Come with me." They left the village quietly. Through the trees, past the broken traps, into the heart of the forest. The map led them to a large rock, half buried in moss and dirt. Beneath it, a metal hatch. Earth steel. Jace knelt and cleared the dirt. "This isn't alien," Syrah whispered. "No," Jace said. This is human. He opened the hatch. Stairs led down into the darkness. Inside, it was cold, dusty. The lights flickered weakly, powered by an old energy cell. The hallway was narrow. They passed rusted doors, broken screens, and strange symbols Jace recognized. Military codes from Earth. "How old is this?" Syrah asked. Jace shook his head. "At least 100 years." They reached a large room filled with crates and consoles. Jace found one crate still sealed. He pried it open. His eyes widened. Inside, an old pulse rifle, still functional, and a case of armor. Heavy, black, reinforced. But the real prize was deeper. A tablet with a message. Project Sentinel. Emergency protocol. If Alpha awakens, deploy unit immediately. Only human DNA can unlock the failsafe. Jace turned to Syrah. This wasn't an accident. What? My crash. This forest. Your scream. The signal. It was all part of something bigger. Syrah's face grew pale. What do we do? Jace stared at the rifle. We hunt the Alpha. Outside, the forest trembled again. The Alpha was moving. And this time, it was coming straight for them. Fire and fury. The bunker lights flickered. Jace stood in silence, holding the old Earth pulse rifle in his hands. It was heavier than he remembered. It buzzed with quiet power. The armor beside him looked like a shadow, strong, dark, and built for war. Syrah stared at the wall screen. The message from the old Earth military command kept playing on loop. If Alpha awakens, deploy unit immediately. Only human DNA can activate defense. She turned to Jace, eyes wide with fear and wonder. This was built for you. Jace didn't speak for a long time. Finally, he said, not for me, but for someone like me. Someone human. He looked at the armor again, then at Syrah. Suit up, he said. We leave now. They returned to the village just before dawn. The survivors were already awake. The air was different, charged, heavy. Even the birds had gone silent. Jace walked straight into the center of the camp, his new armor gleaming under the sky. His helmet hung at his side, but the pulse rifle rested across his back. He didn't need to speak. They could all feel it. A storm was coming. Malin approached. You found it. Jace nodded. Yes. And I found more. He pulled out a small data cube and showed them the old Earth records, photos of the Alpha, warnings, plans. Syrah spoke beside him. The Alpha was created by an ancient fusion, alien spirit, human DNA. It was meant to guard the forest, not destroy it. But something went wrong, Jace added. It turned on its creators, became too strong, too angry. Malin whispered, now it wants blood. Jace looked toward the forest. Then we give it a fight instead. The plan was simple. Draw the Alpha away from the village. Fight it in the open fields near the cliffs. Use the traps. Use the Earth tech. Hit it with everything they had. Syrah and Jace led the small group across the forest edge. The survivors helped place explosives they had crafted from old fuel cells. Each step felt heavier. The ground was trembling now, faint but constant, like distant footsteps. It was coming, and it was big. Jace stood on top of a rocky cliff as the sun began to rise. The early light touched the forest and turned it gold for a moment, just a moment. Then a scream tore through the silence. Not a human scream, not a sylph scream. This was deeper, stronger. It shook the air. Trees snapped in the distance. Branches fell like bones. And then it appeared. The Alpha. It stood 3 times taller than any sylph. Its body was covered in silver armor-like skin. Its arms were long, dragging across the ground. Its face was not a face. It was a mask of bone and shadow, with burning red eyes at the center. Syrah stepped back. That's not a creature. Jace stared. That's a weapon. The alpha roared and began to run, straight at them. Jace put on his helmet. The armor clicked, sealed. Now, he said calmly. He jumped from the cliff, landing hard on the ground below. The earth cracked under his boots. The rifle buzzed to life. The scope glowed. He fired. The first blast hit the alpha in the chest. It barely flinched. The second shot burned through one of its arms. But the beast kept moving, faster now. Behind Jace, Syrah activated the first trap. A burst of fire exploded from the ground, lighting the alpha's leg. It roared again, swinging wildly. One of the survivors ran forward and threw a net made of burning wire. It wrapped around the alpha's head, but the monster ripped it apart with one hand. "Keep going," Jace shouted. They were hurting it, but not enough. Then the alpha did something no one expected. It spoke. Not in words, in thoughts. "You do not belong here." Jace froze. The voice echoed inside his helmet, inside his mind. Syrah gasped. "Did you hear it?" Jace nodded. "Yeah, and I've got a reply." He dropped the rifle and pulled out the last explosive device from his belt, a fusion core. "I belong wherever there's someone to protect." He charged. The final battle happened in seconds. Jace ran straight into the beast's path. The alpha swung its arm. Jace rolled under it. Syrah yelled, distracting the creature just enough for Jace to climb onto its back. He drove the fusion core into a crack behind the alpha's neck. Then he jumped. "Now!" he screamed. Syrah hit the trigger. Boom! A wave of blue fire shot into the sky. The blast lit the entire forest. Trees bent. Rocks flew. The alpha screamed, truly screamed, and fell. Hard. Smoke filled the air. The ground stopped shaking. Silence. Jace lay on the ground, body burning, armor cracked. He coughed, rolled over, and looked up. Syrah was running toward him. "Jace, I'm alive," he groaned. "Barely." The alpha lay still, smoke rising from its broken body. It was over. The forest was quiet again. Back in the village, the sun finally rose over calm trees. The birds returned. The mist cleared. And for the first time in many years, there was peace. Real peace. No packs. No fear. Only hope. The last echo. The forest was silent. Not dead. Not afraid. Just still. After the battle, after the fire, after the alpha's fall, something in the air had changed. The trees no longer leaned like they were hunting. The vines didn't move like snakes. The light felt warmer, softer. For the first time in generations, the forest breathed without anger. And so did the people. Jace Cross sat near the old village well, his armor off, body wrapped in bandages. Every part of him hurt. Cuts, bruises, burns. But he was alive. He watched the villagers rebuild. Wooden walls rising again, fires burning in cooking pots, children running barefoot through the dirt. Laughter returned. Syrah walked over to him, carrying a bowl of stew. "You should eat," she said. Jace smiled weakly. "As long as it's not glowing, I'll try it." She sat beside him, her silver hair tied back with a leaf band. She looked different now, stronger, not because she fought, but because she survived. And led. The others were looking at her now. For guidance. For hope. Jace noticed. She didn't. That made her a leader. Later that night, the village gathered around the fire. 10 survivors, now 12. 2 more had returned from hiding, found by Syrah, and the young boy Rel, faces once covered in fear now shone with calm. Malin stood with her staff and raised her hand. "Tonight, we give thanks," she said, "to the warriors who stood, to the ones we lost, and to the forest, now free from its anger." She looked at Jace, and to the human who answered a scream that was not his own. The people clapped softly. Jace bowed his head. He didn't want praise. He wanted rest. Syrah sat with him later, far from the fire, beneath the stars. She pointed to a bright one overhead. "That's your home, right?" "Not exactly, but close enough," Jace replied. "You ever going back?" He thought for a long time. "My ship's broken. My beacon's dead. Even if I fix it, there's no guarantee anyone's listening." He looked at her. "And maybe. I've heard enough screams to know where I'm needed." Syrah was quiet for a while, then said softly, "We could use you here." Jace chuckled. "I figured, but not as a warrior." He raised an eyebrow. "As a teacher," she said, "as someone who helps others stand. That's what this world needs now. Not more blades, more builders." Jace leaned back and looked at the sky. "I never thought I'd be anything but a soldier." "Maybe the forest had a different plan," she said. A few days later, Jace and Syrah returned to the bunker one last time. They sealed the hatch, placed warning signs around it, and buried most of the weapons. Some tools were kept, but the war was over. They didn't need machines to protect the village now. They needed people. Weeks passed. Jace built a small home near the trees. He taught the villagers how to use basic tools, how to make energy from solar stones, how to build stronger defenses, not for fear, but for knowledge. Syrah was chosen as the new village guide. Not a chief, not a ruler, a protector. Rel followed her everywhere, calling her big sister. The forest healed slowly. Flowers bloomed again. Strange animals returned. The vines grew upward, not around necks. The river near the temple ran clean. And deep within the woods, something moved. Not the sylph, not the alpha. Just wind, just life. One evening, Jace walked alone to the edge of the village. He stood under the old heart tree stump, the place where it all began. He touched the bark. "Still breathing," he whispered. And for a moment, he heard something. Not a scream, not a roar, a whisper. "Thank you." He looked up. The wind brushed past his face like a soft hand, and he smiled. Months later, a strange noise filled the air, high-pitched, distant. Jace turned toward the sky. A blinking light. A ship. He narrowed his eyes. Maybe someone had picked up his old signal after all. Syrah walked up beside him. "Is that?" "Maybe," Jace said. "Could be rescue. Will you go?" Jace looked at her, at the village behind her, at the stars above her, then smiled. "I already did."